What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Loose Ends Fantasy Football Podcast, a fantasy football podcast for average fantasy football players by JJ.
Average fantasy football players ourselves.
And that is going to be prevalent as we talk about some of our week one mistakes, some of the things that we didn't do, but we are more importantly just going to recap week one, talk about some major points that we saw from all those games, and we're going to jump right into what we see going into week two, some waiver wire pickups, some must starts, things of that nature. JJ, you want to go ahead and get us kicked off with the recaps going in?
Absolutely. It was one hell of a week and an awesome week to start the 2024 NFL season. Super excited about it. A lot of underwhelming, a little bit of overwhelming, but let's dive into these matchups. From the first week, um, we're going to look at our Thursday night matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. And then later on, we're going to talk about who were our dogs in week one and who croaked like frogs. Ribbit. So, looking at Thursday night football, Baltimore versus Kansas City in Kansas City. Final score 20-27. We spoke about it briefly in the live stream. Ooh, real quick, just want to plug. Catch us on Sundays at 9 a.m. right before kickoff, so we can help you guys with your sit and start questions. But we talked about a little bit. Thank you. We talked about how we were all shocked to see Isaiah Likely, who had an absolutely amazing performance. Didn't outsnap Mark Andrews, but Mark Andrews looked not like himself. And for me, I went ahead with for my Thursday night football frog, who didn't perform like a dog like he should have, Patrick Mahomes. You guys know I kind of had him pretty high going into the season. Finished the night with 13.14 fantasy points. He was projected 17.95. Got the W. That's great, but for fantasy, we were a little disappointed. Uh, didn't play up to the standard that we had hoped he would get back to after, a down season last year. Sacked 2 times, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I know it was a tough Baltimore defense, but hopefully he can bounce back in week 2 against the Boo Boo Bengals, who he is pretty much the daddy of, anyways. You could tell Tyler I said that. My dog from Thursday Night Football. It's got to be Lamar Jackson, okay? I was throwing a fit. Talked about dropping him. I get a little crazy sometimes, okay? I'm not going to drop him. He had kind of a slow start. I was getting upset because it looked like what it looked like last year in week 1 when he had 2.5 points, and I was freaking out. You can ask Blake. But he finished the night with 25 fantasy points, ran the ball 16 times for 122 yards, threw the ball 41 times. That's crazy. This is a new offense. A lot of new pieces on the offensive line, and you could tell. So it showed greatly. But still, he was only sacked 1 time, I think. 2 times, sorry. This is a new offensive line. Talked about that. Love this level of fantasy production, but can he sustain it without getting injured? I'm not sure. I think that he will most certainly get injured if he continues to produce that much. Who are your dogs and frogs?
Yeah, so you touched on most things, the obvious frog being Mark Andrews. I'd like to throw Rashad Bateman in that question too, because we hear it every year. It's Rashad Bateman season, and it never is. And we're seeing that now. The clear WR1 in that receiver room is Zay Flowers, and everyone else is basically irrelevant. Nelson Aguilar or whoever else you want to name is kind of irrelevant in that offense. My dog as well, it's got to be Lamar Jackson. Like you said, I mean, 16 rushes, most he's had since 2021, had 122 rushing yards, most he's had since 2020. So, I mean, they talked about it a bunch. The lighter, faster Lamar Jackson showing up, yes, that opens up room for injuries, but man, he's electric. It looks like they're going to allow him to do his thing from the backfield, and that's a scary thing when you talk fantasy. I don't really
Absolutely.
have a frog. If I did, it would be Nick Bolton, just starting off slow from Kansas City. Had 7 tackles, but he just looked slow. Gave up a big touchdown. Wasn't really reading the field like we're used to seeing him read the field. But my dog is Rashi Rice. 32% target share, shut it down, bro. 32% target share. That is one of
Fantastic.
those. Even when Marquise comes back, I just Hollywood Brown steps on the field. I don't think it matters. His target share is kind of solidified. I think everyone else in that wide receiver room needs to be a little bit worried, but Rashi Rice is pretty solidified. Gave me Michael Thomas esque type vibes when they
Ooh.
ran him on the slant 475 times. I think like it was like 88% of his routes or 89% of his routes were the slant through the middle. So that's interesting. If you're really, really good at one thing and it works for you, I mean, send it. Let's move over to that Friday night game, JJ. What do we think?
All right. So the Friday night game was a great game. First of all, both games were really awesome, decided by one score. A little disappointed though, I gotta say it, in the toe on the line. I mean, it was the Ravens, so I'm not like that disappointed. But I don't want to see the Chiefs win. I'd much rather have the Ravens beat the Chiefs. Anyways, for the Friday night game, my dog was AJ Brown. 24.9 fantasy points. Had a great game. Kind of a slow start. Targeted 10 times. He only caught half of those, but ended up with, I believe it was 130 yards. I got to double check that. But looked solid in his first week. I'm sorry, 119 receiving yards and a touchdown. Look for Brown to have less targets against the Falcons, especially with their secondary being so good. I mean, you could look at what happened with the Steelers in week one. Not a lot of passing production there. Not a lot of production, period. We'll talk about that later. Frustrating as hell. Um, and I look for Brown to have a good week against the Falcons, but like I said, the secondary is scary. My frog from this game was Luke Musgrave. He really was underwhelming. Targeted 2 times. It didn't come down with a single catch. So big fat goose
Did you
egg.
see the split between him and Tucker Craft?
Yeah, it looks like Tucker. Well, also, isn't he coming back from an injury?
I mean, he
Luke
was back
Musgrave?
last season, so it's tough to say.
I
But
thought at the end of
64 to
this.
17,
Yeah.
that's tough.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot. Um. Yeah. So I am a little bit concerned about that. That split's not good. And like I said, they targeted him twice and he couldn't come up with anything. So I thought that he was coming back from an injury towards the end of the season. That's what kind of made Tucker Craft relevant. I had Tucker Craft for a period of time at the end of the season. Actually, he did pretty well for me for a couple weeks. But I do hope to see Luke bounce back, and I do think that they're going to probably utilize both. But that snap count is scary, right? That difference. Look for Tucker Craft to continue to keep that amount of volume, but we'll see. So that's my dog and that's my frog from the Friday game.
Big one for me, Saquon Barkley. Easy,
Oh
easy
yeah,
dog.
that's an easy one.
Aside from all the stats and everything else, I think a lot of the concerns were is Jalen Hurts going to vulture some of those short range touchdowns and things like that? And I think we're seeing that the Philadelphia offense is comfortable to hand him the ball in short yardage situations, which is something that they did not do in the past. They put a lot of that responsibility on Jalen Hurts' shoulders, but we saw in the red zone they're not afraid to hand the ball to Saquon back to back times to let him go do the dirty work. Um, so that's exciting to see. Love that for him. On the flip side, Green Bay dog as well. Jaden Reed had a wonderful game. We weren't sure how that was going to go. Here's the thing for me, for everyone to pay attention to. I mean, he only had 5 touches. He had 5 touches, had an amazing game. Now, the interesting thing, and one thing we talked about in the offseason a little bit, JJ, was the personnel that they kind of run. Now, one thing to notice for our listeners and for our viewers, Green Bay came out in an 11 personnel base. That was their base offense was an 11 personnel. So that'll give Jaden Reed some more opportunities on the field. Not sure if he was a major factor in that decision, but if you have, your best athlete out there more often, it's probably good for your offense. I think right now with Jordan Love not being on the field, it could affect his work a little bit, but I mean, you have Mr. LaFleur over there. He's going to make it happen one way or another. So those are my two dogs. I don't really have a major duck that I didn't like from the game. Um, Maybe Christian Watson. The expectations on him right now. There's a lot of eyes on him to be this great breakout, and I just don't know if that's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to. We've already talked about this. I mean, he did have 10 fantasy points. That's good, but it's probably not going to win you your week. Um, yeah, we like to see double digits. He has 63% of the snaps, 5 targets, 13 yards. Yeah, so that's who I would say is your frog if I had to pick one for you. But yeah, I don't need to do that. Okay, moving on.
Keep it moving.
So now we're gonna get into the first slate of games. 10 o'clock on the West Coast, one on the East Coast. First game, my babies. Pittsburgh in Atlanta versus the Dirty Birds. Okay. This was a super anticlimactic game, except for the defense for Pittsburgh. They were on fire. Intercepted the ball from Kirk Cousins 2 times. Kirk Cousins, he's my frog from the Falcons. From this matchup, I thought Kirk. I mean, you guys heard me in the offseason. I'm not really big on Kirk, and he actually proved all the points I was trying to make in this first week. Now, he can always come back from this, but this is like the Kirk that I have always kind of seen and been worried about. And I'm a little excited because I do have a crazy, crazy, super spicy take. I think Michael Penix is going to be the quarterback for this team by the end of the season. And Kirk's not making a great case for himself in week one. 4.2 fantasy points, projected 12 and a half. 2 interceptions, 7 sacks. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. 2 interceptions, sacked twice. So I don't know why that seven's in there.
7 sacks
Drake,
is crazy.
yeah. Well, it would have been if the fucking refs were shitty. 2 strip sacks taken away from TJ Watt. Drake London, another one. That's another frog for me. 3.5 fantasy points, projected for 14.76. He had 3 targets. That's not the good. I am very worried about him, but I had to pick a dog for Atlanta, so I went with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts had 11.6 fantasy points. He was only projected for 11.52, so he'll just about hit that projection. Finds the end zone. Woohoo! Happy for you, bud. For those truthers out there, keep rocking. But for me, the frog out of Pittsburgh, the whole goddamn offense, okay? Fucking frustrated. 6 field goals. A win's a win, don't get me wrong. But 6 field goals, Arthur Smith. 6. Stop running the fucking ball on third down. Justin Fields played great. Let him throw the ball. Air that shit out, dude. Oh, sorry. So frustrated.
He
Even with
went
Najee. Oh,
17 for 23 or 18 for 24, something like that. He only missed like 6 passes, I think.
yeah, he had a 70% pass completion percentage. He played great. He just didn't have a bunch of yards. It wasn't like he had 9.94 fantasy points, was projected 12 after they gave him the start. But yes, he went 17 for 23, 156 yards. He ran the ball 14 times for 57 yards. And he did fumble the ball, but he recovered it. It was a fumbled snap. They've been really miscommunicating him in the center, but like I said, that's a rookie. They'll get those ironed out. So Najee ran the ball 20 times and still didn't even have 10 fantasy points. That is ridiculous. I'm so tired of that shit. He's got the volume. Yeah, 8.9 points. Ran the ball 20 times, 70 yards. 2 targets, 1 reception for 9 yards. Yes, 9 yards. I really want to see this offense do better. I know we won the game purely because of our defense. That's it. My dog for Pittsburgh, 2 people. TJ Watt and Chris Boswell. No, we're not a kicker league, but if you had Chris Boswell in a redraft league for your kicker, you had somewhere around 26 points. Could have potentially won you your week. So in Bos we trust. I love Chris Boswell. Thank you, Chris. TJ, fucking monster, man. Let's go get you another Defensive Player of the Year award as you rightfully deserve. What do you feel, Blake? Who are your frogs and dogs?
My frog, first and foremost, was Najee Harris. So I went frog with Najee Harris because Jalen Warren is nursing the hamstring, so I think he only had like 2 carries. Had all the opportunity in the world to reestablish himself as that RB1 over there, and just couldn't get it going. So he was my frog over there. I have two dogs for Pittsburgh, which was George Pickens, who had a 30% target share, came down with 6 of 7 after he started slow. Really established himself as a WR1 over there, and I think a sure start every week. And then shout out Justin Fields just for playing a good game, like a solid quarterback game, even if the play calling and things like that wasn't super great. He did what
No
he could do on
turnovers.
his end. Yep,
Yeah,
did what he's supposed to do.
exactly.
So we love that from him. On the flip side, I actually had the same exact frog as you. Drake London was severely disappointing, and he is one of those guys that we talked about at ADP. Probably not. Plenty in the offseason.
Mhm.
We're just he's not JJ. Okay, he's not
No.
Justin Jefferson. Everybody was like, "Oh, well, you have this talented receiver, and now you have Kirk Cousins over there. You don't have a Justin Jefferson who's always open. It's going to be tougher for a guy like Kirk Cousins." So,
You
I
think
think
Kirk Cousins regrets leaving Minnesota right now?
probably, to be honest, for
Maybe
sure.
a little bit.
Yeah. Um, my dog for Atlanta was Bijan. Had a great game, did everything he was supposed to do. I think people were worried about the split between him and Tyler Algier. I mean, he had an 89% snap share. Uh, had 23 opportunities, the rock in his hands. I mean, can't expect anything more than that. So nothing to complain about.
16 fantasy points. That's pretty good.
Well, didn't I don't think he did anything crazy with those opportunities, but he did enough to keep himself established as
Yeah.
WR1. Excuse me, RB1.
RB1. Yeah, we talked about in the live stream too how last year in week 1, Tyler Algier was, what was he at, fourth in fantasy scoring for running backs, and I think Bijan was like sixth or seventh. But
Something like
yeah,
that.
it's just crazy to see. I know you're happy to see him with that kind of volume. 18 attempts, even though only 68 yards. He didn't have a touchdown. No one. There was no touchdown scored in this game by either team. But the thing I also really liked and I wanted to comment on is the 5 targets and 5 receptions for
Right.
43 yards.
Absolutely.
Okay, next game. Going to Arizona. Oh, Arizona at Buffalo. Buffalo. Buffalo pulled out the win. I thought Arizona was going to beat Buffalo. My dog for Arizona in this game was James Conner. James Conner has just been time and time again pretty consistent when he's healthy, but a very good asset for your fantasy team. I hope you guys played him in your lineups. I would have if I had him. He had 19.3 fantasy points and he was projected for 13.23. My frog coming out of Arizona actually was, I know you're not going to like this, Kyler Murray. He had a hot start to the game. I thought he was going to have a lot
He
more.
looked great till he didn't.
Right. He looked good, and then it just, that offense fell off. And it looked like to me, from what I saw, I'm still kind of catching up. I didn't get to watch all the games like I'd like to, but it looked like he was missing some open guys or just not even seeing them. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. was wide open at the end of the game for a potentially game winning catch, but I don't know if Kyler didn't see him, if there was pressure, or what happened. But yeah, he ran for what, 5 attempts, 57 yards. He did have a fumble and he lost it, unfortunately. So that's what, -2 points. Went
Right.
21 for 31.
I think he
Uh,
had 4 sacks.
yeah, he was sacked 4 times. So that
Yeah, that's the
also
big thing.
does not help his value in our league. So moving on to Buffalo. Um, my frog for Buffalo was Curtis Samuel. I was telling people to start Curtis Samuel. I wish I wouldn't have. I started him in my league, in our league, on my team, over Brian Thomas Jr., which is something I'm kicking myself for now. But Curtis, I just don't know if you can rely on him. I'm not saying drop him, but he only had 3.5 fantasy points. I think he was targeted 3 times, had 1 catch. So not really excited about that performance. And then my dog from Buffalo, Got to go with Josh Allen. He had 29.18 fantasy points. He started off kind of slow. It was the opposite for him and
Right, for
Kyler.
him and Kyler.
Yeah, I thought he was going to have a bad game. I was like, yes, because I was playing against him. I was playing Shmee this week, and Shmee has Josh Allen. So I was like, yes. And then he came on hot at the end, pissed me off. But that's why he's going to be my dog for this game. Uh, he had, let me see if I can find him, 29.18 fantasy points. Was projected for 19.61. That's fantastic. Like I said, he was pretty hot towards the end of the game. Did it with his legs, again, as he usually does. He had 9 attempts for 39 yards and 2 touchdowns. Damn it. That's frustrating. Okay.
I have I don't have any dogs or frogs in this game specifically with these two
Oh,
teams, but I have two people that I want to touch on. I want to touch on Dalton Kincaid, and I also want to
that's a good
touch
one.
on Trey McBride. So Dalton Kincaid, just one target, so you want to think immediately, oh no, that's a frog. Like yes, maybe in this game a little bit of a frog. He outsnapped Dawson Knox 51-35, so we were kind of questioning that split there. Um, and he played more snaps than any Bills pass catcher. So he's on the field running routes more than anybody else on that offense. So there's not too much cause for concern because he's in the right positions, but he is a prime like buy low candidate right now. If that's you're in a league looking to capitalize on getting him. On the flip side, Arizona as well. Trey McBride. Yes, he only had two receptions, but he had 9 targets. 9 targets is what you're looking for from a tight end position because that's a high end receiver. He's in the right positions. Now, I don't know the quality of those targets. I'd have to go watch the game, which I will. So make sure you're looking at the quality of those targets. But 9 targets is a lot for a tight end. So those are the two that I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, I do want to touch really quickly on Trey Benson. He was the fourth running back. I mean, he saw a little bit of the field, but not much. 3 carries for 13 yards and 1 reception for 5. But he had DJ Dallas ahead of him and Amari DeMarcado. That's a little concerning, but hold him for now. Don't get rid of him. Just wait and see. Maybe, hopefully, he gets more snaps in the coming weeks. Um, Ready to hop off or hop over to the next game?
Absolutely.
Okay, Bubba. So the next game we got Tennessee. Was Chicago in Tennessee?
Yes.
Okay, Chicago and Tennessee. Chicago pulls out the win. Purely because of the defense.
Yeah,
Sorry, Joey.
that's ridiculous.
But my frog from this game is Will Levis. He looked at the beginning of the game like he was going to be pretty decent, maybe have like 2 touchdowns for 200 yards. But he ended this game with 2 interceptions. He had a fumble and he got sacked 3 times. Very concerned about him. Possibly a drop candidate for your waiver wire coming up if you need to make room for somebody else. Maybe Sam Darnold's on there. I'd probably go get Sam Darnold over Will Levis. What do you think?
I like Sam Darnold. I'd take Sam Darnold, and he at least looks like he knows how to play football, whereas Will Levis thinks he's still in college. A lot of the stuff that he's doing out there, you can maybe get away with at the college level, but you can't get away with that stuff here, young man.
That's funny. I feel the same way about Caleb Williams. Trying to scramble just gets destroyed by the defense. So that's my frog for Tennessee. My dog for Tennessee actually was Tony Pollard. Looked pretty good. We were talking about our concern with him and Tajay Spears sharing the bulk of that backfield, but it looked like he's going to be the guy there. He finished with 18.4 fantasy points. He was
20 plus
projected for 10.
touches.
Yeah, I mean, he had a fantastic game. So, right, 16 carries, 82 yards, 1 touchdown. He went 3 for 4 receptions with 12 yards. I think the receptions is where we're going to get more fantasy value from him in the future. Like I said, the targets weren't great coming from Will Levis this week, but let's see if Tony Pollard can keep it going. Remember, we talked about how he was the number 5 running back at the end of week 1 in 2023. I'm not sure where he ranked after this week, but he did a good job. I'm happy with Tony Pollard's performance. We'll see if he can keep it up. So, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, similar. I mean, Tony Pollard was really the only highlight of that offense all day. I guess Cheek, Okonkwo over there, he had some involvement, which is good to see if you're in a tight end premium like we are. Tight ends can be a tough spot. So if you don't have Cheek picked up in your league, if he's on waivers, or if he's a cheap buy for you, that might be someone to go look at. He did score. He had some work. He only had 2 targets, but it's 2 targets, 2 receptions. So they were good looks. Um, and flip side of that, right? I mean, Chicago was just an atrocious showing. But Keenan Allen, did you see his snap share percentage?
I did not.
his target share percentage, 38% target share.
He had 11 targets, and he only caught 4 of those.
38%, right.
That's insane.
Um, so a lot of
Whew.
the routes and stuff he was running too seemed to be like clunky and not his normal Keenan self that we're used to. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Just to kind of
I agree.
see if he's on that downward trend that we all hope he's not. Um, it seems, in Chicago, Caleb is not afraid to throw it at him, so that's one thing to monitor.
DJ Moore in this game, I would say DJ was probably my frog from the Bears. I expected more from him. He had a projection of 13.29 fantasy points. He only finished with 10. He had 8 targets, but only 5 catches for 36 yards, no touchdown. Um, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about him. I think he left the game at one point to get checked for a concussion. I'm not sure if there's any update on that, but something to monitor. Make sure he's healthy. Look for him on the IR report or for any healthy or unhealthy designation this week as you're getting ready to prepare for week 2 and looking at start sit decisions. I didn't really have a dog for the Bears. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think anybody played that great, to be honest, for fantasy. So I'm gonna have to move on from that. And Romo Dunze is another one. We got to be careful of him. It looks like he may be injured as well. So
One
look out for
reception,
his.
11 yards, I think, or something like that for him.
Let me check. It's right here.
Not great.
Romo Dunze 1 for 4, 11. Yep, 11 yards. 2.1
Interesting.
fantasy points was projected for 10.88. That's crazy.
Yeah. Let's
Okay,
move over to the New England game.
okay, Bubba. So my dog for New England was Ramondre Stevenson. He looked fantastic out there, man.
I think he's the only
I,
one.
yeah, he really was. But it's crazy because they won the game, and I didn't think they were going to win this game. Happy for is it the head coach, the new head coach taking over for Bill Belichick? I think
Mayo.
Mayo, OJ Mayo.
Uh,
I don't know.
Sure.
Okay,
I think it's
but
Gerard Mayo.
Gerard, that's what OJ. What is that?
OJ Mayo used to play uh,
that's who.
basketball.
Okay. So Ramondre had 25 carries for 120 yards and a
I think he
touchdown.
had 25.
So I think that's awesome. We can clearly see he's going to be the workhorse running back for that team. Um, worried about the Bengals. I would say my frog from this game for the Bengals is their defense, dude. Their defense did not look good. Also, Joe Burrow was kind of disappointing as well. 21 for 29, 184, sacked 3 times, 4 carries for 15 yards. It's not the Joe that you need to win your weeks, your weekly matchups. Zach Moss, pretty good showing. So I'll say he was the dog. Whatever. Jamar Chase could have done better. He didn't even hit his projection of 14.53, but he did get 14.2 points, so that's good. Caught all 6 of his targets for 62 yards. Um, what do you think, Blakey? Who's your dogs and frogs?
I don't really have a dog from Cincinnati. If I had to, it'd be Logan Wilson. I think he had
Oh, yeah, he had
30
a good game.
in fantasy.
That is correct.
Had a fantastic game at linebacker. Frog is everybody. That whole game was gross,
Was.
starting
It
with
was like
Zach Taylor and everyone else.
13
On the
tackles,
Yeah, on
for
the flip
moments.
side, I think again the positivity is really Ramondre Stevenson, right? I know I personally drastically underestimated his role in this offense. I mean, 28 opportunities, 25 rushes. He's only had 25 rushes one other time in his career. So the fact that we were all like, well, we don't really know, and Antonio Gibson's over there, and this and anyway, yeah, this is Ramondre Stevenson's backfield, and they're gonna lean on him.
Antonio Gibson, 7 carries for 18 yards. So I don't think you really got to worry about him as much. And 0 targets in the passing game. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. So that's how that's looking over there.
All right. Moving to the next game.
Absolutely.
Okie dokie. Let's see here. So after that putrid game, go to another. Well, actually, this game was pretty good. Indianapolis Colts versus the Houston Texans. My dog. The guy I've been praising all offseason. I was super excited to see him back and healthy. He absolutely outshined what I wanted him to do. He wasn't looking like he was going to have a great game at halftime, but man, he really, with the 9 completions that he had, was able to put up 30.08 fantasy points. Woo! I love that shit. Let's see. He also had 4 carries for 13 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, 234 yards. He was sacked 4 times. But oh wait, no, I'm sorry. That was CJ. Whoops. Anthony went 9 for 19. He had 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had 6 rushes for 54 yards and a touchdown. But he was sacked. He was sacked twice. Sorry, C.J. Stroud was sacked 4 times. Wasn't the best performance from C.J., but still manageable. You could manage a win with that. 14.66 fantasy point performance. Uh, my dog for the Texans actually was Joe Mixon with 26.8 points. That man carried the ball 30 times. What? 159 yards and a touchdown. Three
And
for
caught the
three
ball.
receptions. Yep, 3 for 3 receptions and 19 yards. Monster.
And I traded him away.
Oh, sorry, Bubs. We'll see. Josh Jacobs, he didn't do too bad. Um, 26.8 fantasy points was projected 13.83, almost doubled his fantasy projections. Um, Also, Stephon Diggs looked pretty good. Nico Collins seems to be that guy. 8 targets, 6 yards, 117 yards. Oh, what did I say? 6 for 8 targets, and it's
117.
117 yards. All right. Tank Dell, though, that's my frog. That's my frog. I'm sorry.
Almost because he's a bum.
Oh, where's Monty when you
He's a
need him?
bum. Where's Monty? That WR3 bum.
He only
BUM
had
bum.
he only had 3 catches for 40 yards. Oh, poor baby.
Bum.
Um,
One of those catches was for 23 yards. Bum.
2 carries for 19 yards. Um, on the other side, Alec Pierce, another dog for the Colts. 23.5 points. He was projected 5.33. This guy had 3 receptions for 125 yards and a touchdown. The reason why he had so many points in our league is because we do the bonus for 40 plus yards and 50 plus yard touchdowns. The I was gonna say that the frog for the Colts was Jonathan Taylor. It was an
That's
underwhelming
my same
performance.
frog.
Yeah, 16 carries, 48 yards, and a touch. I mean, he had a touchdown that saved you, but other than that, really, for 16 carries, that's not what you want to see from Jonathan Taylor. This guy should be an elite running back.
Aside from the deep ball for me, there wasn't really a standout receiver in Indy, which is a good thing because Anthony Richardson is not, picking one guy. So we can see that he can move with an offense through multiple people. Loves him the deep ball. So Alec Pierce caught relevance for the deep ball there if he's going to be stretching the defense. Anthony Richardson, obviously a dog. Again, I am in total agreement. Jonathan Taylor is not what we thought he was going to be this game. So that was disappointing to see. On the Texans side, my dog was Nico Collins, 6 for 8. Like you said, 117 yards. He had a great game, didn't score, still put up great fantasy numbers, still put up 17 fantasy numbers. Um, Interesting take on Stephon Diggs. So a lot of people similar to Xavier Worthy and Jaden Reed. I mean, how many receptions did Stephon Diggs have?
Stephon Diggs he was 6 for 6,
6 for 6. Do you know the total yardage? Because it's not very much.
33 yards, but he had
33
two
yards.
touchdowns.
Do you know the total air yards thrown
I
to
heard it
him?
was like 3 or something like
It's
that.
8.
8. I
Eight
was aware.
air yards. So they didn't throw him the ball downfield. They weren't throwing him on eccentric routes. They were throwing him on quick hitters, and he happened to
Slants.
make something happen. But these plays were not designed for him to pick up big gains. He was not designed in this play scheme to have a lot of yards. That's one thing to note. The big yardage plays are going to Nico and Tank Dell. So that's something to note. Dalton Schultz also didn't have a super great game. So that's something to note.
Yeah, 3 receptions, 16 yards. He was projected 9 fantasy points, only had 4.6. The tight ends across the board this week were fucking disappointing. Oops, excuse my language. But
Well, you'll be able to talk about that in our next game.
yeah, oh, really disappointing this one. So now we're going to Jacksonville, my old home. Wait, no, they were in Miami, right? Yeah, yeah, because he got okay.
Yep.
Never mind.
Yeah, because Tyreek
So
got arrested.
that's right. Yeah. Oh my god. So Jacksonville looked pretty hot coming out. I think they were up 14-0, 17-0, something like that. Ended up losing the game to the Dolphins. Came back 20-17.
Bums.
My froggy ribbit is Evan Ingram. Yeah, it was a really disappointing performance. He had 1.5 fantasy points. He had 1 reception for 5 yards, 4 targets. Just not what we expected from him, especially after he catches 2 touchdowns in the final preseason game. Just goes to show you can't rely on preseason for shit. It doesn't mean anything. Also, all these motherfuckers come out looking gassed. I'm so tired of this. Why do we have a preseason when these guys come out looking like they're just like not ready for this at all? It's so frustrating to me. But I do think that this is a tough defense on the Dolphin side. Uh, I think we should see Ingram get back to being pretty good next week. I believe they're playing against the Browns. My dog was someone I should have played, and I was stupid for not playing him. Was Brian Thomas Jr. He looked fantastic. He actually led the receiving room, which I didn't expect him to do coming out of the gate. So he was wide receiver one with only, I mean, it was only 4 targets. I get you, but 4 receptions, 47 yards, and a touchdown. That's what gets you to that 14.7 points. Thought it was a great performance for week one. I hope he can only just build from here. It looks like he has a solid relationship with Trevor. The kid's pretty good. My other frog was Christian Kirk. Ooh.
That was my frog as well.
Oh God, he was not good, dude. 1 for 4 and 30 yards. Just a 30-yard catch off, 4 targets. That's not what you want from Christian Kirk. Like I said, this offense slowed down pretty badly at the end of the game. But looking at the Dolphins side, Devon Achan is my dog. That boy was nasty on Sunday. 10 carries for 24 yards, but with 1 touchdown rushing. This is where I think he has the most value. 7 for 7. 7 receptions for 76 yards. That is awesome. If you can get that from your running back every week, that's a league winner to me. So, dog, Devon Achan. Go ahead.
My dog in Miami is Tyreek for obvious reasons.
Yep,
It's
I knew you were
Tyreek
gonna
is
say
Tyreek. Tyreek is
12
Tyreek.
targets. Woo.
Yep. Target share too much. They're going to utilize him. He's going to be open. He's going to score touchdowns. He's going to do it all. He's going to be your no doubt, no shit WR1. Start him every week without question. Um, I didn't really see a dud except for maybe a frog in Mostert, maybe just because we weren't really sure what that share percentage was going to be, but it looks like Devin Chain is really taking the brunt of that backfield, the touches over there. And Mostert, even with the touches that he got, didn't do all that much with them. So it doesn't bode well for him going forward. On the other side, you touched on Brian Thomas. Love that. We touched on Christian Kirk as a frog. Another puppy I want to touch on. Travis Etienne had a wonderful game. He had a red zone punch out going into the end
Oh,
zone, which would have gave him a second touchdown. So that would have put him at a 21 point finishing for the day, 2 touchdowns. But he had 15 touches. I mean, good split. They gave him some healthy work, but the play designs and the passing out of the backfield is going to him directly. Games going forward, I anticipate seeing that go up a little bit. So I'm excited to see what he can do. And goal line opportunities are going to him as well. So that's exciting to see.
absolutely. I think you're right. But I do want to bring something to your attention that I just looked at actually. Um, Travis Etienne had 12 carries for 44 yards. Tank Bigsby
Tank
had
Bigsby.
12 carries for 73 yards. Are you
Yeah.
concerned about Tank at all?
No.
Okay. So splitting carries, but yes, Travis Etienne had 2 for 3, 15 for receptions and 15 yards. But the fumble
Bijan
loss, that
split
sucks.
carries with Tyler Algier. Bijan still finished top 10. Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery, we just saw it. They split
They
carries as
both,
well.
they
They
both look
both
good.
finished a 16 and 17 point finish, respectively. Tank Bigsby, yes, had a great day against a not super good looking run defense. To give up 100 plus rushing yards was tough. Um, I think Tank Bigsby did great with the touches he had going forward, which could maybe render him a couple more touches that even split for the next couple of games, but I don't think we'll see him do that again.
Okay.
I think he had a good day, and they tried to do this with him a lot last year, where they were giving him the opportunities just to kind of see if he had the hot hand. But we'll see it dwindle out. That's my opinion on it. But if you look, he had no receptions, no targets. They're not going to utilize him out of the backfield at all. So the entire passing down back is going to fall to ETN no matter what. So he's still going to hold the majority of that snap share.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, last year I'm looking at his game log. He only had 10 carries once, and that was in week 17. So yeah, I kind of agree with you, but something to kind of keep an eye on. I think maybe he
Absolutely,
will
something to
have more
monitor.
production in the future. Yeah. Okay, let's hop over to the Carolina New Orleans Saints game. I don't know if
Anyway,
we really want to talk about this. So I'm looking. Let me see here. Okay, there is no dog coming out of Carolina. I'm sorry. I thought Josie Jewell was going to have a big game. He didn't do shit on the defensive side of the ball. All the running backs look like garbage. Bryce Young looked like garbage. I'm not trying to defame anybody. I'm just saying, like, the way he played 13 for 30, 161 yards, 2 interceptions, sacked 4 times. This is, look, you got to give this kid some protection so he can throw the ball. I mean, he threw it 30 times, but look, he's getting pressured. That's I know they were pressured him. The Saints have a great defensive line. Miles Sanders led the running back room with 22 yards on 5 carries. Only had 2.2 fantasy points. That is awful. A little bit of a kind of interesting, hopeful thing for me, anyways, is Xavier Leggett actually. I'm not going to say he was a dog because he went 4 for 7. He had 7 targets. That gives me a little bit of hope. For 35 yards, he has 7.5 fantasy points. Not going to help you really win or yeah. Hopefully you didn't play him. Wait a little bit, but it looks like he's going to get targeted, so that's a good thing. Deontay Johnson, my God, I'm so glad he's gone. He was targeted 6 times. He had 2 receptions for 19 yards. He had 3.9 fantasy points. Not looking good, man. Jatavian Sanders was also kind of disappointed. They only targeted him once for 4 yards. On the other side of the ball, my dog, because really, there's only like 2 players that really carried. Well, 3, I'll say. On the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to go with Derek Carr because I talked a lot of shit about Derek Carr, but he actually surprised me quite a bit. At 23.3 points, he went 19 for 23 at 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 carries for 13 yards. He was only sacked once. So it's the Panthers. Now we know, right? This is kind of the team. If your fantasy players match up against the Panthers, you've got a good week ahead of you, I think. Um, the the frog for New Orleans, another receiver that I wasn't very high on in the offseason. I'm talking about Chris Olave, man. What in the hell? He wasn't even targeted the most on the team. I mean, he only had 2 targets. He hauled them both in for 11 yards, but 2 targets? That's not what we expected for Chris Olave. Rashid Shaheed seems to be the guy there. 3 for 5, 73 yards and a touchdown. And it was over 50 yards. One of his receptions, at least, or the touchdown. What do you think, Blake?
I agree with everything you said. Duck for me, the Carolina Panthers. That's an easy frog. That whole team's frogs. That team, bunch of Kermits. And then New
Oh,
Orleans. I loved Rashid Shaheed. I actually wanted to touch on Foster Moreau. Actually looked pretty good,
oh,
right? 4 for
yeah.
4, caught a touchdown. Had a head top play. That was, I mean, he mossed somebody. It was fun to see.
That was
Looked pretty
beautiful.
good. So just if you're in a deeper league, somebody to monitor, keep an eye on because they targeted him. I think Olave will come back, and then Alvin Kamara doing what Alvin Kamara does. I think he was RB5 this week. Had a great game again. Very exciting stuff.
So Foster Moreau's only rostered, it looks like, in Sleeper, 2% of all leagues have him rostered. So definitely a waiver wire target um, for you to go and get. If you do Fab like we do, how much would you say you'd be willing to spend on Foster Moreau for Fab?
0.
Ooh, you're not going after Foster Moreau, huh?
Not for money.
So if you can get him, you just
If I
put
can get
a
him, I can get him. If someone else gets him, great. If you
put a
really
claim
need a
in
tight,
though.
yeah, if you really need a tight end, maybe $5 or whatever. Um,
Okay.
we're spending a couple bucks just to make sure that you have the waiver priority. But
I mean, he hit that line that I talk about all the time. He hit the 4 for 40 and a touchdown. If I can get that from my tight end, I'm super happy. So
well, that's what we're
maybe he'll
looking
be
at
able
on a
to do that.
consistent basis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I don't think he's going to be able to do that against a non-Panther team.
Well, plus you have Jawan Johnson is still there. Chris Olave wasn't involved,
Dallin
so that target,
Holker,
yeah, that target share is going to get spread. Taysom Hill was still utilized over there. I mean, that target share is going to get spread. I just don't see him doing it again.
I agree. All right, moving on to the next game. We're looking at the Minnesota Vikings at the New York Giants. What a very unexciting game. If you, unless you were a Minnesota fan, then you're pretty excited about that. So my frog for Minnesota was Jordan Addison. I think he may be injured. Someone to keep an eye on, see if he's on the injury report. Only had 6.5 fantasy points. Was projected for 12.26. Just an underwhelming performance from him after kind of a hot rookie season. But Justin Jefferson's back, so we knew he wasn't going to get the same volume. He only had 4 targets, but he held in 3 for 35 yards. Not bad. No, that's bad. My dog for the Minnesota Vikings was Aaron Jones, man. Aaron Jones is nasty. New team, who dis? He said 14 carries for 94 yards and a touchdown, 2 receptions for 15 yards, 18.9 fantasy points. He did good. He did good. I want to see him get to. I mean, he was just about there, but that 15 carry mark, I feel like is such a benchmark for the rest of the season, even in week one. Like you want to see them get that volume. So 14 is pretty good. Ty Chandler only got 8 carries, so not too concerned about that there. And then my frog for the Giants. This was an easy one. Daniel
Daniel
Jones.
Jones.
Oh my god, what the hell happened? Why did we pay this man? Why? Answer me. No, I'm just kidding. He had -3 fantasy points, guys. My lord. Projected for 12.35. I cannot understand why they're still rolling with this man. I thought I saw the funniest thing. Though I saw a video of him leaving the stadium after the game, and some fans are like, "Give me a milli, give me a milli." They want his money. And they were calling him a bum, you suck. They did not like him.
BUM bum.
Bum. Also, Devin Singletary thought he was going to be kind of the
Yeah,
workhorse back.
he was my frog. He's definitely
Oh
no Shaquan.
no, no, he's not. I don't know if that's what they were expecting from him, but 10 carries isn't going to get you there. I mean, he did have 5 targets, but held in 4, and it was only 15 yards in the air, so not that good. Um, I don't really have a dog from the Giants. Malik Neighbors did okay. He didn't hit his projection. He had 7 targets though for when he went 5 for 66, so that's pretty good.
It's a
Wandale
good start
Robinson.
for a rookie.
Wandale Robinson was targeted 12 times. Yikes! He only caught 6 for 44 yards. Um, I think I would be willing to go spend some fab on Wandale Robinson. I'll probably be in that 5 to 10 range, just depending on how much fab I have and what kind of need I have at that position for wide receiver.
And we are 5 to 10 out of 100. We have $100 to spend in our fab, our free agency bidding money. So if you guys are in 1,000 league or whatever the case is that's the equivalent for us is 1 to 100.
So yeah, that's why I say like 5 to 10%. I'm thinking 5 to 10 fab. Um, so moving on now to the takeaways from the afternoon slate of games, and I'll try to get these a little bit faster. Las Vegas in LA against the Chargers. Final score 10-22. Chargers take the win. 1-0. My frog was Zamir White for the Raiders. I know Monty's kind of high on Zamir. Had a disappointing performance, if you ask me. 4.6 fantasy points, projected 9.93. Um, Alexander Madison, though, kind of surprised me. Wasn't expecting that. He had 5 carries for 19 yards, whatever. So Zamir had more carries. He had 13 carries. But Alexander Madison went 4 for 6 receptions at 43 yards and a touchdown. That's 16.2 fantasy points, was projected for fantasy points for the week. It looked good. So worried about Zamir, kind of fading Zamir a little bit, but I do like Alexander Madison. He may be on your waiver wires. Maybe take a look and see if you can go get him. Um, if you are an owner of Alexander Madison, I would be trying to sell him. He's probably get a decent price for him right now. For who, I'm not quite sure, but if you're in the market, you need to make some improvements. Maybe you could put him in a package deal of sorts. Devontae Adams looked like shit. 5 for 6, 59 yards. Not his fault. Not his fault. The quarterback play is garbage. Um, Surprisingly, Brock Bowers looked pretty damn good.
That was my dog for the day.
Ooh,
Brock Bowers, I mean, 6 of 8 targets, 58 yards at a 24% target share. It's clear that they're going to make him a focal point in this offense. 21 years old. I mean, that was my dog for the day in this whole game. Um, Definitely somebody to target if you can.
absolutely. I feel the same way. Probably hard to get because I think now the cat's out the bag. Like we know he's good.
Right.
So we'll have to see. But on the other side of the ball with the Chargers, J.K. Dobbins surprised me. He's going to be my dog. Didn't really play like extraordinarily well. He had a couple big break off runs. Went 10
10
for
carries.
135. Yep, 10 carries. That's good. That's good volume. Actually was I don't know if he was out snapped, but he didn't have as many carries as Gus Edwards, who is my frog. Oof, God. 3.8 fantasy points. Carried the ball 11 times for 26 yards. Had 1 reception for 2 yards. J.K. Dobbins had 3 receptions, only 4 yards, but at 135 in the touchdowns, what got Dobbins to relevance and got him in the probably top five, I want to say, for running back scoring in week one. Who's your
My
dog
dog
and
on that
frog, my
side of the
brother?
ball, my dog is going to be Lad McConkey, especially being a rookie. I mean, had
Laddie.
great targets, had some great route running, scored a tutty. That's a great way to start off as a rookie. We've seen the connection between him and Herbert. He's going to clearly run the routes that we want to see him running. They're utilizing him correctly, so I'm excited to see him and his production going forward. The frog for me is QJ. Quentin Johnston for obvious reasons because he's QJ, and I will take any opportunity I can to remind the public that he ain't shit. So, QJ, Frog, stay away, avoid at all costs. Don't spend your money. I wouldn't trade him for fab money. I
Oh
wouldn't
wow,
trade
that's
for him for fab
crazy.
money.
Sounds like you drop him.
I would give him away.
Okay. Um, you ready to move on to the next game?
Absolutely.
All right, brother. So now we're looking at Denver and Seattle in Seattle. Final score was 20-26. Seattle takes the win. They are 1-0. Looking at my froggies. My Seattle Frog was JSN, 5.9 fantasy points. Did not impress. Looked like not the good. Not happy with that at all. It's projected for 10 fantasy points. Only had 2 targets for 19 yards. That is not. He caught both, but 19 yards. That's what can we do with that? Nothing. Then my dog for Seattle, of course, Kenneth Walker. Talked about him being my
Easy.
essential start for the week. 20 carries, 103 yards, and a touchdown. This dude looked electric. Unfortunately, he did leave the end of the game with an abdominal issue. Prayers up. Please be okay, Kenneth. I need you, baby. I need you. Carried me this week for real. Very happy with his performance. And then on the other side, Denver. Denver. Um, I have Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams was my frog. God, I thought this guy was going to be so good when we started this league, but now look at him, man. It is pathetic. He had 8 carries, 23 yards. He went 1 for 2 and 0 receiving yards. Jaleel McLaughlin out. I believe he outsnapped him. I got to double check, but he had
He
10
did not
carries.
outsnap him.
Oh, okay. So he
So
had. Go
Javante
ahead.
Williams had a 57% snap share, but Jaleel McLaughlin 6 to 10 on touch share.
Okay, 6 to 10. Okay. Well, so really
16 to
nothing
10.
nothing exciting about the offense for Denver. Truthfully, Bo Nix didn't look very good. But Javante Williams is concerning. I do want to talk about Devon Vele out of Utah. 26 years old. He had a pretty good game. I think he
Eight
had 8
targets.
targets. Yeah, 8 targets, 8 receptions. It's pretty dang good for essentially a rookie. Or I don't know. 39 yards, 11.9 fantasy points. He basically led the receiving core. But yeah, I don't really have a dog coming out of Denver. That would probably be it, and I think he's probably available in most leagues. Looks like he's rostered. It doesn't look like he's rostered at all. So definitely a waiver wire target if you can go get him. Try and get him. I don't think you really have to spend up to get him. If you're in need of a receiver, I'm not sure that he's going to get 8 targets every week, but I mean, looking at Cortland Sutton, I'm a little concerned about that. 12 targets and 4 receptions. Ugh. What do you think, Blake?
I did not like Denver at all. That backfield is concerning. Interesting about McLaughlin getting 16 touches to Javante Williams 10. They obviously believe in Mr. McLaughlin, so that's something to monitor. For me, on the flip side, Seattle was interesting because, like you said, JSN was your frog for obvious reasons. I mean, JSN and Metcalf both out snaps Tyler Lockett, but neither one of them eclipsed Tyler Lockett in targets. Um, so it's interesting that he's playing less but getting targeted more. So it seems like that offense is when he's on the field is something to be of note that there is opportunity for him to be schemed for, because Gino doesn't historically go through reads 2, 3 very often. So that means that Tyler is your first play option.
Right, and that's
Also, shout out Geno Smith for having the fastest run of that day. That was crazy.
34-yard touchdown run.
Yeah,
Good
he's
for him.
21.94 miles per hour, or something crazy.
Wow.
Boy still
Okay.
got
Well,
the
I did
speed.
not see that coming. Damn, Gino. Speedy Gino. All right, moving on to the next game, Bubba. Looking at Dallas in Cleveland.
Gross.
Wow. Gross. It wasn't even like a really crazy offensive performance by the Cowboys. Final score 33-17. Cowboys take the win. My frog, sorry to do this, but it's Dak Prescott. Did not meet the standard, didn't even hit his projection of 15 points. He went 19 for 32, 179 yards passing, one touchdown, one carry for 3 yards, and sacked 3 times. 8.46, that is going to lose you a week. You got to, this is why people dropped Dak last year because of performances like this. Not saying drop Dak, don't do that because this guy won their leagues last year. Just wait. That's one of those guys you got to wait. It kind of takes a while to heat up. There are certain players I feel that are hot in the beginning of the season, cold and towards the end, and same thing, cold in the beginning, hot in the end. So just got to be able to time that. But the performance there wasn't good. The one I do like out of the Cowboys is actually Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is pretty good. Targeted 7 times, 4 receptions for 40 yards and a touchdown, one carry for 5 yards. CD, uh, you want more from CD. 13 points isn't bad, but again, that's not going to help you win. Um, on the other side of the ball, my frog, Jesus. It's like,
Jesus.
come on. Not Jesus. No, not Jesus. Amari Cooper. I shouldn't bring Jesus up
Ooh.
on the show.
Ooh.
Amari Cooper's my frog. He had 3.6 fantasy points, projected for 13.21. I mean, this was not what you wanted from Amari. If you took Amari early in your redrafts, if you took him or paid for him in your dynasty leagues, 9 targets, 9 targets, and 2 receptions for 16 yards. I don't know if you saw this. There was a play where he came into the huddle and he rolled his eyes because of the play call. So clearly some frustration there. Also, not very happy with the quarterback play in Deshaun Watson. But
I
my
think it's
dog,
easy to
oh,
call Deshaun Watson the frog.
easy. I try not to go easy, but trying to bring other attention to like Amari. Just we expected big things from him. Jerome Ford though was my dog. Even though the Browns got smacked, he looked good. 12 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown. Then he went 6 for 7 and 25 yards to the air. So pretty good. Going to continue to be that style of workhorse, reliable, probably fantasy gold mine until Chubb gets back. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, until Nick Chubb gets back, he's kind of the guy. And it's very interesting to have that internal battle because yes, these receivers are hurting. Jerry Judy did score a touchdown, which is always a shame to see. Um, Wish he could have been relevant his entire time, but who are we to
Uh,
ask for such things? Um, it's just tough because Deshaun Watson played so poorly that it's hard to blame the receivers in a world like this. Whereas Jerome Ford had such a great game, but all Deshaun Watson had to do was hand him the ball. So
Who knew
tough.
that we would be living in a world where Baker leaves the Browns and he's playing better somewhere else than he
Oh, he's
was at the
going
Browns?
nuts.
Yeah, we got to get to him next. Actually, we're ready to get on to the next game, or did you want to mention anybody
Absolutely,
else?
jump right into it,
All right, my brother. So we're
my
looking at
brother.
my brother. Um, Washington versus that's trademark. We might get sued for that. Washington versus Tampa Bay. Final score 20-37. Tampa Bay ran away with it. Woo! Okay, we got to apologize because we told somebody to start Terry McLaurin over Devon Achan, I believe it was. We're still working on him. Okay,
I don't
we're learning.
remember it.
No, okay.
Wasn't
Well, we might
Devon
have to go back and
Achane.
check
I
the
would.
film.
I don't know if we would have said Devon Achane. I'd have to check what it
I can't
was. Let
remember who
me.
it was. Well, I'll go back and check. But Terry McLaurin was a frog. Ribbit. He did not play well. Let me see. Yeah, he had 4 targets, 2 receptions for 17 yards, and then Luke McCaffrey went 3 for 3, 18 yards. He actually had more fantasy points than Terry McLaurin. The running backs for Washington were the ones that ate, and that's who my dog is for Washington. I'm the owner of Brian Robinson, and I love Brian Robinson.
Love him so much
Um,
you didn't play him.
Mistake. That was a mistake. Yeah, I really want to talk about that too at some point. But 12 carries, 40 yards, and a touchdown. Went 3 for 4 receptions, 49 yards. What the hell happened to Austin Eckler? 2 carries for 10 yards,
I told you from the beginning he does not want to run the ball.
but 4 for 4 and 52 yards through the air. That's where he is
Excels.
successful. Yep, and he excels. That's right. So that's my dog and frog for Washington. My dog for Tampa Bay is Baker Mayfield. Baker
Not what I
Mayfield played
thought.
excellent. Who'd you think? Oh, Mike
Mike
Evans.
Evans.
I mean, that's a given. I don't want to give you guys
Oh,
layups.
got it. I didn't realize that Baker Mayfield going for 4 touchdowns wasn't a given.
Oh, well, how often does he do that? He doesn't do it as often as Mike Evans
He
gets two
is
touchdowns.
one of 4 quarterbacks in Tampa Bay history to do that, to go for, I
Oh,
think it's like 290 plus 4 touchdowns in opening day.
dang, that's crazy. But yeah, 28.66 fantasy points. You only got sacked once. 289 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. I don't know if he'll be able to repeat that, but he's someone that I've kind of grown, especially since he left Cleveland. I've grown a little bit more in favor of him for fantasy, but yeah, had a great game. And then my frog for Tampa Bay was Kate Otten. Disappointing. 1 catch for 2 targets, 5 yards. 1.5 fantasy points was projected for 8. So if you had Kate Otten, you were disappointed and may have lost your week. I'm sorry. I know your pain. I had a 1.5 point tight end in Evan Ingram. Um, yeah, we hope that Kate Otten can get better than that. Maybe a little bit more targets in the future, especially against a defense that, you know, isn't so, it doesn't give so many points up to that position.
My dog, I just want to shout out Rashad White on Tampa Bay again.
You didn't
21
play him
touches.
either?
I did not. 21 touches, but exactly what we had talked about, in this offseason. Finished with 16.6 points, had 15 carries for 31 yards. I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, that's so horrible. It's 6 receptions for 75 yards, just like Brees Hall last year. Him and Brees Hall both finished with less than 1,000 yards, and both still finished respectively in that top 10 running back position.
The top
If
5?
you are in a, I believe so, you are
Yeah.
in a full PPR league, those receptions make the difference. That's why CMC is as valuable as he is. On the opposite
Absolutely.
side of the ball, Jaden Daniels, man, we can't not touch on Jaden Daniels. I mean,
Looked great.
16 rushes, 88 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, this is why everybody was so damn high on him, right? Like, he has that rushing upside. Um, League winner, if he can sustain that type of value, we're looking at offensive rookie of the year type numbers. Um, I just hope he can figure out the receiving game, right? We can't really rely on Brian Robinson Jr. to carry us like that. But
Yes, we
rookie
can.
quarterback, rookie quarterback, we said he's going to look out of the backfield, and he did just that. I did not look Zach Ertz. Where did he finish?
No, not good. He had 5.8 fantasy points. I mean, he beat his projection of 5.18, but he had 3 receptions on 4 targets for 28 yards. Not what we were expecting, but not horrible. Not 1.5 points. So
Very
maybe we'll
interesting.
see more targets for him in the future. Ben Sinnott didn't get. I don't think he did even see the field. Looks
He
like
did not.
John Bates did though. He got 47% of the snaps. So something to watch, but I think slowly we'll see Ben Sinnott kind of climb his way up that depth chart. Um, okay, moving on now. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we move on?
No, not at all.
Okay, so moving on now to the Sunday night game. The Rams versus the Lions went into overtime. It was a fantastic game. A lot of ups and downs. 20-26. Detroit takes the win, 1-0. My frog from the Rams. I feel bad for putting him on here because he's hurt now. Puka Nakua, man. Puka had 18.20 fantasy points. It was projected for 16.12. I mean, what happened, Puka? Puka had, other than the injury, of course.
Yeah, he missed
Puka
half the game.
had, he did come back, though, which is
He
strange.
came back for like 3 snaps and then he was done.
One carry for 7 yards. He tried. He tried to come back. Four receptions on 30 for 35 yards. So not what we want from him. And now it sounds like I think they confirmed today that he's going to be out for probably 4 to 6 weeks with
They
the
said he's probably
PCL.
not coming back till October 20th.
What?
We're looking at
No.
probably 8 weeks.
Oh my God. It's that bad of a PCL sprain?
That's what they said. They said don't
Jesus.
anticipate.
Oh, well, that's good for Cooper Cup owners. That's for sure. I
Yeah,
mean,
five
that's
weeks
who
from
my.
now.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
15th, 22nd, 29th, 6th, 13th. It's 5 weeks. So then that 6th week back would be the 20th.
Dang, that's a bummer, man. Ugh. I hate when we lose players so early in the season. Our period. I don't want to lose any players, but to injury. Cooper Cup, he gonna eat
Dog,
with Puka
dog,
gone.
dog,
He's my dog.
dog.
Whoa, whoa. 32 fantasy points, guys. He was unbelievable. He was targeted 21 times. That's insane. Oh my God. He held in 14 of them for 110 yards and a touchdown. Mama, that looks like the old Cooper Cup, man. What did we talk about in the offseason? He gonna fill his cup back up, and that's exactly what he did last night. Unfortunately, not enough for the Rams to pull off the win. Moving on now to my frog coming out of Detroit. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Just a disappointing performance from him. 6.3 fantasy points. Not the Amon-Ra that we were excited to see and know and love. 6 targets, 3 receptions, 13 yards. Oof. Not a good. And now for my dog for Detroit. I had to go with Jamison Williams. JMO, everybody was kind of skeptical. Some people kind of caught on, I think, in the offseason. They're thinking that he was going to be, the focal point in this offense. And we see that now. 26.4 fantasy points, projected 9.84. I mean, he got the game ball, baby. He had 9 targets, caught 5 of them, went for 120 yards, 21 yards, excuse me, and a touchdown. Um, just an absolute monster. Deep ball threat, take off, downhill all day. I hope that he can keep up this production because that was fantastic to watch. I really enjoyed that. How about you, Bubba? Who are your dogs and frogs?
My frog is easy, same as you. Is Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was disappointing to watch. I have two dogs from that Detroit side of the ball. One, David Montgomery. Eye test.
Ooh.
Love the way he run the ball. They said we're going to run the ball right here, and he said, "Watch this." Hold my beer, and decided I'm going to put this team on my back multiple times. So I love the way that he was running. That share, that backfield between him and Jameer is still a 50-50 share in that backfield. It is not what people expected it to be, so that's something to watch. Other dog for me is Mr. Anzalone on the defensive side of the ball. Had a
Nice.
fantastic defensive game, flying around. Brian Branch played a great game as well out of the backfield, aside from a couple of mistakes here and there, but I liked that. For the Rams side of the house, Cooper Cup got to be the dog, right? Has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Frog is interesting. Eye test, I didn't like how Kyron Williams ran the ball. I think he was given opportunities. I don't think he did a lot with them. I think it was just a product of opportunity, but he didn't look great. Um, so that'll be something to monitor, something interesting. And Blake Corum didn't touch the field either, so that's another thing to note, which is very interesting. But as far as a, I guess, frog, that would be my frog, quote unquote, just based on the eye test.
Yeah, I agree. Someone that I wasn't very high on because of that reason specifically. I didn't like the way he runs, and also kind of concerned about his workload. And not that 14.4 fantasy points is bad, but 18 carries, you'd expect him to get into that 100-yard range, which he did quite a bit last year. So I understand completely that he is that looking like a frog. Um, is there anything else you wanted to touch on for this game?
Not at all.
Okay. I know we mentioned a little bit about the injuries. Just want to kind of touch on those again. Puka PCL sprain, like Blake said, could be out till October, which is horrible. Mostert left with a shoulder injury. Romo Dunze had an MRI on his knee today, so got to keep an eye out for that. Not really sure what's going on there. Haven't heard anything about it. Hopefully it's negative and there's nothing going on with him. Jake Ferguson, MCL sprain, will miss some time. Probably that 4 to 6 week range, so that sucks. David Njoku's got a high ankle sprain. Addison was there was a notification that Addison went to the medical tent during the game. DJ Moore went to the medical tent. Waddle went to the medical tent. I think Waddle finished the game. I think DJ Moore, I'm not sure if he got a concussion or not, but these are all things to monitor. I'm letting you guys know. Keep an eye out for that, um, especially when we have Thursday night football right around the corner, just a few days away. And also, Antoine Winfield. That's a big injury for the Bucks. We'll miss 2 to 4 weeks with an ankle injury. So that's what I wanted to touch on. Other than that, that's all we have for week 1. Anything you want to touch on, Buffs?
No, I don't think so. Pay attention to the shorts that are coming out this week. You'll be seeing our waiver wire pickups. You'll be seeing our waiver wire running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, all that stuff. Anybody we're thinking about there, it'll be in the shorts this week, so pay attention throughout the week. We will get those out and moving before Sunday, and we look forward to seeing you guys Sunday morning before we kick off for our 1 hour live doing sit start questions and all dynasty questions. We'll see you guys then.